Hello everybody, Vergosity here with another Redstone Basics tutorial for you. Today guys, we are gonna be building up an automatic kelp farm, fully 100% automatic. All you gotta do is be near it sometimes and it's gonna make kelp for you. You can eat that kelp or we can turn it into dried kelp, which is one of the best fuel sources in the game. Let's check it out guys. And here we have the kelp farm, guys. Pretty interesting how it works. Basically, the kelp grows up in front of that observer, and then it triggers that piston and snaps it off, and all the kelp floats up to the top, down this way into this water chamber, and gets collected right over into the chest right over there for you. Nice and easy. Now before we build it, let's step back a little bit and visualize how you want it to be. Do you want this to be all above ground? Do you want it to be all below ground? Do you want it to be maybe like halfway and have like a standing platform, something like that? It's up to you guys. If you want to put it in the ground all the way, obviously you're going to have to dig way down. I think that this is a nice middle ground if you were to have a standing platform kind of right about there so you could still see inside of it. Only have to dig down a little bit though. But here's how tall it is, guys. It goes right up to the top right there, so just so you get an idea of how tall it's going to need to be. And the material list for this is going to be a little bit extensive because it's kind of a bigger project. So 42 observers, 42 pistons, we're going to need some sand, we're going to want a bunch of redstone dust, I believe 42 also, a couple hoppers, a couple chests, a bunch of glass. I didn't really count it out, so I just grabbed a couple stacks, and a couple stacks of kelp to help get the thing started with the water source blocks. We're going to need a bunch of slabs, and then if you don't have sea lanterns or dark prismarine, these are building blocks, okay? You can use whatever you want there, but we use sea lanterns in there because I feel like it kind of makes it glow and shine a little bit and looks really nice. But if you don't have access to those, don't worry about it. Just bring any old building blocks. And then to put the water on the top, you can do some ice, or we're going to do it with a couple water buckets. Either way you can do it. I'll show you a couple different ways depending on what you have access to. Alrighty guys, let's start right on the ground level of wherever you're going to have your farm. And we're going to put a row of 7 sand and 7, and then we're going to come back with a row of 7 sand the other way. Alright, and now we're going to get a little bit repetitive, and we're going to repeat a bunch of layers up to the top there. So now again, if you don't have sea lanterns, don't use sea lanterns. Use whatever you want, but I like the shine of the sea lanterns. So we're going to do a row of them right like that, 7, and then a row of 7 back on the other side. Now let's get out your regular pistons, and they're going to sit facing inside into the sand area, and the same thing on the other side. Then we're going to take observers, and we're going to put observers right on the top of those like that, and around on the other side, just like so. And then we're going to put sand right on the top of those observers, and the same thing on the other side. And guys, we're going to repeat that up 2 more times. So we're going to go with the sea lanterns across like that, and then the sea lanterns over on the other side. Okay, then we're going to do another row of pistons, and another row of pistons with the observers right on the top of those. From the outside, we're placing the observers so that we get the signal going to the outside, and they're picking up the kelp growing on the inside. And then we'll do another row of sand right off the top, and the same thing over here with the sand. And let's go up one more time. So 1 more row of sea lanterns. And 1 more row of sea lanterns over on this side here. There we go. The pistons on the inside. And pistons on the inside. And for the last one, we're not going to do sand on the top, so it's just going to be these observers going across like that. Swing around to the other side, and observers across like that. So this is what you should be looking at so far, a nice little V formation. Alright, next up, right from the front here, we're going to start filling this in because that's all going to be water in there eventually. So let's start with some glass in the front here. I guess if you don't want glass because you don't really want to see the farm, that's fine. You don't have to use glass here, but I like some of it to be visible because I definitely like to watch my farms work. It's pretty satisfying sitting back and watching it just slowly churn out kelp for you. There we go, just like that. And then we're going to come to the back, and we're not going to use glass in the back because I don't want to. You can if you want to, You definitely can do this part however you want here, guys, but for me, we're just going to kind of fill it in with some more of this dark prismarine. Seems like anytime I do anything with water, I always use dark prismarine. Just seems to go together for me fairly well. And one more across the top, just like that. Boom, there you go. Now we got a nice space for that water to go, and that's what we're going to do next. I played around with a bunch of different ways doing this, and this is still the best way I came up with. We're just going to go ahead and fill this whole layer, one below those observers in. We're going to fill all this in with, it doesn't have to be dirt, but just some sort of a block here. You could use stone or whatever you want, but just any sort of a block, okay? And then what we're going to do is I'm actually going to switch over to survival mode here to do this next part, because I want to show you how to do this with just a couple water buckets. So if you take one water bucket and you put it right there, then you take another one and put it one block over, you're going to form a water source in the middle right there. Then you can grab that water source, then you can move it down to another spot. Grab that water source back again, move it down to another spot, and what you're going to want to do is basically you're going to want to fill in this whole thing here with water sources all the way around. Make sure you grab the right one though, but then you can grab that one, drop it there, that one, drop it there, that one, drop it there, and just work your way all around until the whole thing is nice and full of water, just like that. Make sure you get in all the corners too, so very good. And then once you're done with that, then you can go ahead and break out this dirt layer here. I'll switch back over into creative so we can do that kind of quickly. And just knock out this dirt layer again here. Just make sure you're not knocking out any of those other pieces and parts that you need in there. It's a little hard to see sometimes now with the water in there, but you should be able to do it pretty easily, just like that. All right, now we need to turn all of these blocks into water source blocks. So the way we're going to do that is by using kelp. Anytime kelp is in a water block, that block is going to be a water source block. So we're going to now fill this whole thing with kelp here, okay? Now, if you want to just put down a few kelp and let it grow, you definitely can do that, but I'm not going to wait for that. We're going to put kelp all through this whole thing here, all up the way to the top here, and let's do this whole thing here lickety-split. Okay, so now once we're sure we've got all the kelp all the way to the top, okay, we're going to get this kelp back. Don't worry about it. You're going to get it back right now because now all these things are turned into water source blocks, and that's important because that's what's going to carry the kelp up to the top. So now we can actually install the rest of the redstone here. So let's get our building blocks out, and right on the back of each one of those sticky pistons, you're going to put a block just like that on all 3 rows, and then we're going to end up putting redstone right on top of each of those, just like this all the way around. And this one too. And right up at the top. And then we just need to trigger it one time. That's going to be super easy to do. Just knock one piece of kelp out, and boom, there you go. Do the same thing here. Down, let's see, we got to get down in here, down like that. There you go. And then get right down in the bottom one too, and trigger one right down there. Boom, there you go. Knocked them all out. And just do the same thing on the other side with the row of, man, I don't know if you guys can hear it through my mic, but it is absolutely pouring right now. There is a wicked thunderstorm going on outside. Holy cow. I apologize if you can hear it in the background there, but man, it is coming down right now at my house. Holy cow. All right, so and then another row of redstone right up at the top like that. And then we're going to trigger this side too, which we can do just by clicking on a piece of kelp that's in front of the observer. Just make sure you're not breaking the ones that are on the very bottom there. And there you go. That should be all done. And now you can see we have kelp everywhere in here, that there is a piston and sand. So beautiful. Everything, make sure it's filled in looking like that. We'll go on to the last step. So the first thing we're going to do is working on the front right here is we're going to put a little water chamber, basically. A little chamber to have another little water stream. So down one from that top row of glass, put a row of glass, and then put another one off the edge of it like that. So you got a nice little chamber right there. Fill in this back side there. Let's come over here. We're going to want to use our hoppers and the chest now because we're going to basically put in where everything's going to collect. And it's going to collect right there. Actually, sorry, we need the chest first. And then we're going to put one under it also. And then we can put the hopper in the back like that and like that. And then let's wrap glass right around here to trap that water. We're going to take another water bucket. And we're going to put that water bucket right over on the side here, just like so. Boom. Yep, should flow right over that hopper just like that. Okay, now we need to manipulate the water in here to flow forward. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to take a row of slabs, and we're going to put a row of slabs on top, upper slabs, all across here. Because we don't want to lose that water block that is in there by putting something else in there. So by doing this, when we take it out later, it will still be a water source block, which is very, very handy for what we're trying to do right here. Okay, once we're done with that, I'm going to use my prismarine blocks here, and we're going to put a row on top of these observers. We're going to put a row on top of that back there, and another row on top of these observers just like that. Now we're going to want to do the same thing with the water buckets. We're just going to make all of this water source blocks back there, and that should run right to the front of here. I know it looks like they're connected, but they're not, because watch, if we throw something in here, it'll flow, pushes right down into the hoppers, just like that. Then the last thing we need to do is we just break out these slabs that are in there. Lickety split, just like this. Being careful not to click anything too much because I'm in creative and it's easy to break stuff. But once you get them all done, guys, that's it. The farm is donezo. So you're going to, every now and then, you're going to see some kelp floating in there. And what happens is when these pistons fire, it actually stops that block in front of it from being a water source anymore. But as soon as that kelp grows up, it'll become a water source. And that kelp will then continue its way up to the top, floating right up there, right over and into our little chests right here, guys. Thank you guys for stopping by and checking out the automatic kelp farm. On the channel, there's lots of tutorials, lots of let's plays, all sorts of fun stuff. I would really, really love it if you would take a minute, subscribe, give a like, send a comment, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.